In this video, the last in the series, we're going to look at one of the most important parts of Lean, and that is the culture of the organisation. Annoyingly, it's also one of the hardest to animate, which may explain why I've chosen to leave it until last. So, given that I've run out of ideas for how to animate it, I've hidden 14 carrots over the course of this film. Here's the first one. See if you can spot all 14. In Lean, an incredibly important element of the approach is respect for people. Workers are not treated as robots or things to be used and discarded. Workers are first and foremost valued for their ability to think. And this is something that is held very deeply by places that are practicing Lean. It's not a meaningless poster up on a wall saying we really value people, but it's something that you live. It requires a different approach. For example, Toyota would say that you will never put yourself out of a job by having improved the process too much. Within Lean, humility and self-reflection are seen as vital. And it's fair to say that some senior people in pretty much every organisation might struggle with that, whether those are doctors, nurses or managers. As part of the respect for people principle, it would be seen as disrespectful not to get everybody working to their best. That doesn't mean working everyone into the ground, but instead it's about making it possible for you to come to work to do the most meaningful work of your career. So for example, if you're slogging away collecting data for a performance indicator that nobody looks at anymore, that's not respectful. If you've been trained in CBT, but nobody's ever made time for you to use those skills, then that is disrespectful of your talents and time. As workers with special training in mental health, you have the opportunity to make a big impact on people's lives, and if we're not using your skills and your talents to their fullest, then that would be a waste. The whole system of Lean only really works if there's that combination of respect and teamwork. The respect principle means that everyone is respected, and that efforts are taken for people to understand each other and for trust to be built. And again, that's not like doing trust games on a team away day out in the forest. Bad luck there, Doctor. But people are expected to take responsibility for what they do and for how their team does. The approach means pushing people to grow, both personally and professionally, and workers are expected to be part of a team where both the team and the individual can grow, develop and perform as well as possible. Another important part of Lean is described as Genshi Genbutsu, or going to the Gemba, and it means that managers, predominantly, would be going to the place where the work is actually done. The real benefit to patients comes from the frontline interaction with clinicians, and this approach means that the frontline is where managers should be. That way managers get a much better sense of what life is like and what the problems are, rather than relying on reading reports in a boardroom. It also means that leaders can coach workers in how to use Lean to solve problems, and show how they've used the approach themselves. In Lean, leaders aren't expected to have all of the answers, and to come into the front line with all of the solutions. But if there are problems at the front line, they need to be solved at the front line. And this might be through the leader helping someone learn how to fix the problem for themselves, or unblocking the system to make things happen. In this video series, we've looked at a lot of different parts of the Toyota system. We've looked at one-piece flow, 5S, the 7 wastes, Kaizen, Jidoka, and there's lots of other aspects to the Toyota production system we haven't looked at, including Haijunka, which is a way of leveling workload, pull systems, Nemawashi, which is a way of making decisions. But looking at them one at a time doesn't necessarily make sense. I suppose by way of analogy, I could have made videos all about tyres and engines, steering wheels and headlights, but that wouldn't teach you how to drive a car. The components of Lean on their own are only one part of the picture, and it only really makes sense when you bring it all together across an entire organisation. The Lean approach is a system, and you can't do parts of it on its own. In fact, Taiichi Ohno, the founding father of the Toyota production system, has said, if you only do it halfway, it can actually make things worse. In Devon Partnership, we've used some of the Lean approaches in the development of clinic hubs as part of Smart Recovery, but we haven't committed to using Lean in all that we do, so it's hard to know whether continuous improvement will really become a part of Trust Life in the future. I would keep my fingers crossed for the future, but my Lego hands don't really allow me to do that. To truly implement Lean involves a major change in the way that you think and the way that you behave. It seems fitting to sign off on the last video with the words of Taiichi Ohno, who says, you also need to change the way that you think, you need to change how you look at things.